Before I start talking about setting up Kismet as a server with devices feeding into it using Kismet Remote, I just want to point out I did two new builds, both for DragonOS 10, and I know I said I wasn't going to probably focus on that as much, but there seemed to be a lot of interest, so I did take and rebuild the Debian-based build with some new software, trying to keep it very similar to the DragonOS LTS, which is the Ubuntu based. I put both ISOs up on SourceForge, along with a README that I'm starting to maintain, so that you can actually see the version changes and what software is included in there. So both DragonOS and LTS and DragonOS 10 are up there on SourceForge with README files. Both now have Kismet 2020-03 R1, and I was going to do this video, and I got to looking at the Kismet page, and sure enough, I think just the other day they released a new Kismet build. So that is not in the releases that I pushed out, but you could do a simple apt-get update, apt-get upgrade, and you will pull down the newest Kismet, which is what I have running for this video I'm doing right now. I was primarily interested in this the new ADSB airplane view, because I know we showed that before, so I'll touch on that. But what I want to get up and running is Kismet as its primary usage, which is the wireless network detector, sniffer, intrusion detection system. In this case, though, I'm not going to use a wireless card that is, for example, internal to whatever laptop or setup that you have. I'm going to use an external device to feed Kismet information. And in this case, because I don't have my Raspberry Pi here, I do have this GL init AR750 router, which actually is really handy. It comes with OpenWRT by default, which is what I'm using to run Kismet Remote. Kismet Remote, as far as I know, is not pre-built yet. You have to actually build OpenWRT and build the package. So I'll go over that in a later video. That's probably a video all on its own, building OpenWRT and then building Kismet Remote. But I've already got my own OpenWRT firmware installed on this AR750 router with Kismet Remote built in there. And I'll put all these links in the description. So all we need to do is pull up a terminal here, whatever editor you're comfortable with. We need to make a change to the Kismet conf file. And by default, if you come down here, the Kismet server is set up to only listen on the loopback or 127.0.0.1. So what I do is right here, I've changed it to 0.0.0.0. Now, obviously, this isn't the most secure setup. If you were to set this up with the server exposed in port 3501 to the internet, expecting devices that were only yours feeding back to Kismet, you'd probably have to set up some sort of behind a VPN or some other setting. But this is setting up the DragonOS as the Kismet server to listen on port 3501 to any device coming in. So that's already set. So we should be able to spin up Kismet here. And if you've watched previous videos and you've followed along and you've added yourself, your user to the Kismet group, then you shouldn't have to run this as sudo. You'll just run Kismet. We'll go ahead and pull open, control left click on the address here. We'll pull up Kismet. We can see that this new interface here now has its own ADSB Live tab available there. Again, what you're going to see on your build, unless you go ahead and update it, is the previous build, which everything still functions the same, just slightly different layout. I've already changed some settings in here to hide any publicly identifiable information, so that we're not putting MAC addresses and such out there on the internet. So that should be fine. pull this down. Right now we'll just have that out of sight. And what I'm going to do here is pull open another terminal, and we are going to SSH in to the OpenWRT router, or if you had Kismet installed on Raspberry Pi, you could do the same thing. All right, we see it's OpenWRT 18.06.4. I've already got Kismet remote in there. You can see you can do Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and then the PCAP file. I'm just going to focus on the Wi-Fi. We can see the options that we'll need are the connect and source. You can do fixed GPS because the developer doesn't have a GPS built in such a way where I could plug a USB GPS in and run, get actual live GPS pushed up to Kismet here. Right now it's just fixed GPS on this very small footprint Kismet remote. It doesn't take a lot to run it. That's what I like about it. So we will do connect the IP address of the server, port 3501. We can do source, and you can see there's ways of giving the source unique names. In this case, I'm just going to simply do WLAN 0, which is actually the 5 gigahertz interface on this travel router. So that's all we need to get up, and we can see it's connecting and it's starting to capture, and now it's feeding that back to the Kismet server here. So now you can have many devices remotely out there feeding back to you. You can come down here, and if you've named them and gave them locations or whatever, however you wanted to set it up, that would be, you could limit it to only show, or you could drill down to specific devices that you wanted to see. If you click any of these, you'll get more detailed information about that access point or client or a bridge, whatever it may be. I don't want to be blurring a lot of stuff out here, but if you click that, you could see additional information on the MAC address, channel utilization, manufacturer type, all sorts of additional information. So since we're already here and we've already got this up and running, and I do have the RTL SDR plugged in, let's go ahead and take a look at one more additional thing here, being the new ADSB. So we can see the ADSB interface here is here. This WLAN 0, that's the remote interface, so you can actually, and you can see here it is the 5 gigahertz interface on the OpenWRT. You can turn on and off certain channels. You can lock it instead of hopping all through them. So that's actually allowing you to remotely configure that. But let's go ahead and add our ADSB interface, and we should see it pop up here and some data coming through if there's anything by here. Let's see. So now we see we've got our remote device feeding our Wi-Fi information back here, and now we've got our ADSB as well. So the new, it's got its own little tab here on its own. There we go. So as the information comes in, and if it actually had identifiable, like right here we go, we can see pops up on here, altitude, speed, heading. Those will start coming up on there. Okay, so in a later video, I'll go over actually how to build OpenWRT. Okay, hopefully that gets you up and going with yet another piece of software that's built into, or at least another way of using Kismet that's built into DragonOS.